Sky in the ceiling.
How you feeling?
Dead Channel Duo podcast episode number 52. How you doing, Alexander?
I'm doing great after, we cut it out, but you did the whole sky in the ceiling.
You gotta keep the whole thing in there.
Sky in the ceiling, how you feel? Okay, we'll keep it in. But that's such a great thing that you would really only know about if you watch my channel and you've seen me and Andy talk about this other channel.
What are you doing?
Yeah, I know. Go to purpleswordfish.com. It just takes you right to my YouTube channel. Anyway, I'm doing pretty well this week. Andy, how are you doing?
Tired.
Tired? You seem tired.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've slept I don't know. My sleep schedule is so messed up. It's so messed up that I fixed it. But I don't know. I'm awake 26 hours a day. And then I sleep.
That's impossible.
Okay. 26 hours a day for me.
Okay. Were days longer in Kentucky or something? Is that what they taught you in Kentucky public education?
What you don't know is I'm traveling time zones.
Well, yeah.
I'm driving.
Yeah. You could just jump and then, you catch an hour here.
I go to California, and then when I'm sleeping, I go back to Kentucky.
Yeah, that is actually a pretty jarring experience. There aren't very many times where I've traveled across time zones like that, but I know one time I flew direct from Orlando to Vegas, and I had a flight at about 6 in the morning, and I must have gotten to Vegas around 7 their time, and I'm like, oh, wow, it's only 7 a.m. here now. It's kind of...
There's one time I drove for 13 hours, and my car broke down, and it was an hour later than it was supposed to be.
Yeah. That's a great story. That's a great story. We could tell a whole there could be a whole podcast about that whole thing.
There was.
Yeah, I know there was a podcast about
episode 14, I think.
Yeah, please go back to episode 14. Check it out. It's pretty good.
If it's not episode 14, still check it out.
Yeah, it has a great thumbnail too. It's got Andy in a road trip themed thumbnail. It's pretty good. Yeah, the sleep schedule thing, I totally get it because since I got let go, it's been difficult getting into a routine, mainly because of stress. So I found myself having a really hard time sleeping due to stress. Even when they told me you have 2 weeks left, after the 2 weeks, you're going to get your severance, all that, you're still freaking out, man. So I'd be just sitting there at night, just tossing and turning, just not being able to sleep. And then when you do finally fall asleep, it's you might get a couple hours or you end up oversleeping and your whole schedule is jacked up. So totally know how that goes. What have you been playing and watching this week, Andy?
Well, a lot.
Okay.
So I watched Phenomena 1922, Dave Chappelle's Sticks and Stones, finally. Bill Burr's Paper Tiger. Joe Pera Talks You to Sleep. The Club. Next of Kin. In the Tall Grass. My Bloody Valentine, the original. House on Haunted Hill, the original. The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, the original. Child's Play, the new one. Frozen, the horror movie from 2010, not the classic anime adventure. Train to Busan, Crawl, Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, The Evil Dead, the original, It Comes at Night, The Exorcist, and then I just finished watching, and I think people should check it out, Edward Snowden was on the Joe Rogan podcast.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm surprised.
This morning.
I'm surprised that was even possible. Was he actually in...
No, I think they did it for Skype.
Okay, I was going to say, because I don't think that he would ever set foot back in the country at this point.
Yeah. I was talking about someone. What if he's just in plain sight, in Wisconsin or something?
I think it's possible just because you think about the Unabomber. At one point, the Unabomber, I believe, was number 1 or number 2 on the FBI's most wanted list, which is a pretty infamous list.
Martin Luther King was number 1 at one point.
Yeah, let's not talk about that. That's kind of uncomfortable. But yeah, the Unabomber, he was kind of in plain sight. He had dealings with his local community there in Montana, and people knew of him and interacted with him pretty frequently.
I was saying, Martin Luther King was number 1 on there whenever he was about to receive his Nobel Peace Prize, and the government tried to convince him to kill himself. Playing wise, Madden 20. I've been getting back into chess, and I'm just waiting for COD to come out tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to COD too. COD, not COD 2, but yeah, hopefully I'll get to play with Andy. I don't know, but part of me thinks that Andy's gonna do what most people that play COD do. When I say, hey, like let's team up, they'll be like, yeah, bro, you're not very good, so
you never like. I asked to play Minecraft. You're like, yeah, we'll do it. Never get like, hey, you want to play Minecraft tonight?
We got to set up the Minecraft thing. Like, I want to get it to where we can get a couple people in there. Like one of them being Colby. I want to say there's a couple other people who are like very frequent, contributors to the chat on my streams that I think would be fun to play Minecraft with. So we got to set that up. This week I tried to watch quite a bit. I'm looking at my letterbox and it's saying that I watched these after we recorded last week's podcast. So if these are duplicates, I'm sorry, but Shaun of the Dead, El Camino, the Breaking Bad movie, it says that I watched these on Thursday. But I don't know if that's true. And then I watched Frankenweenie and the one that was made in, I think, 2012. Yeah, 2012. Not the original Tim Burton short, the actual full feature movie. Really love that one. It's great.
You hate the original?
No, they're both good.
Oh, I made it sound like you don't like the real Frankenweenie.
Well, no, when I say Frankenweenie, a lot of people originally will like almost instantly will ask, are you talking about the short or the movie from 2012? Because people remember the short, which is good. It's, it's obviously a little bit more dated and it's a little bit shorter. And I like the longer format of the 2012 film.
Whoa, Alex liking longer things? Whoa.
Okay. Listen, man. Frankenweenie was still like under an hour and a half. I like movies that are easily digestible. I hate when stuff goes over 2 hours without a really good reason. And I loathe when things go to like 3 hours, like Avengers Endgame.
You're going to hate it when I recommend Shua.
Yeah, not looking forward to that.
It's 9.5 hours long.
So yeah, Frankenweenie's awesome. Love that movie. Watched it with my wife. She loved it as well. And then Toy Story 4 finally hit physical format this past week. And I had to order it off the internet because I couldn't find a steelbook here locally. So I finally got it in and got to check out Toy Story 4 for the first time. And boy, that was a treat. Really liked it. Really good. Other than that, just kind of getting caught up on all the fall shows that are coming back, Shark Tank, Mom, etc. Wrestling's obviously another thing that I frequently watch, but, yeah, the Toy Story 4, man, I was really blown away with how good it was. They brought in, Key and Peele as voice actors and they were hilarious in it. And I thought, it might be a little bit forced. It's awesome. So, I don't know if they're ever going to make another Toy Story. I assume this is going to be the last one ever. I don't know. Maybe they revive it later on.
The third one.
Well, yeah, that's the other thing. Like after the third one, I really thought that was it. But
you see, what they got to do is live action remake. Obviously, shot for shot,
live action.
No creativity at all.
Yeah,
shot for shot live action remake of all of them.
That would be positively awful, and I hate that idea, but as terrible as that sounds, we got that live-action Lion King, which just felt
and Aladdin.
So I was surprised to learn that a lot of Disney fans really despise that live-action Aladdin. I was kind of blown away by that. The reception on that was not very good.
I told you, they're soulless.
To me, it's starting to feel like a cash grab. But anyway, I digress. And as far as playing this week, I've been playing a lot of Madden. Most feared content is out. There's a house rules event that I've been trying to work my way through. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get through it or not. Weekend league's obviously a thing. Playing in a franchise, so it's been very Madden heavy. World of Warcraft obviously has been a lot of fun. Since I mentioned last week, I got the flying ability in Battle for Azeroth.
Third week in a row.
I know. Well, I just gotta, because listen, somebody out there might like World of Warcraft, and I want to tell them the grind is worth it because it's so much easier to get stuff done in that game. Stuff that I
You
thought
can fly in Minecraft.
that's pretty cool. We should do that. But like, it's really nice to be able to fly because you get around a lot faster. You save a little bit more money. It's great. You just pick up and go. It's awesome. I love it. And then what else? Oh, Link's Awakening. I'm working on a series for my channel, and I've been playing Link's Awakening on the Switch. I'm not very far in right now, but it's amazing. I love it. I want them to do more, like, Nintendo, please do more stuff like that. Do more remasters. It's okay
Shot
if
for
you
shot
do it.
remakes.
No,
I'm kidding.
I'm
throwing.
Yeah.
If you want to see a fantastic shot for shot remake, check out Funny Games.
Okay.
It's literally it's a shot for shot remake, but the original was in a different language, and he remade it in English.
Okay.
So it's really good. The remakes on HBO, the original is on YouTube for free. So
Well, there you go. There's an example of something that's done properly. Anyway, moving on to listener questions. This one comes from Ruben Jim at Cuban Swim on Twitter. He asks, biggest surprise player so far in this NFL season, biggest disappointment as a player this season, what bombshell trade or move will occur by next Tuesday, the trade deadline? And he says his personal prediction is that Gronk will sign back with the Pats because why not? Andy, I'll let you lead off.
yeah, surprise player,
Yeah,
Chris Godwin
that's a good one.
and DJ Chark.
Another good one. So mine, those two completely agree with, and there's a lot, but the one that I feel like I would be remiss if I did not mention it because I was incredibly critical of him going number one overall is Kyler Murray. I've been very impressed with what I've seen from Kyler Murray every Sunday. I make it a point to watch as much of Arizona's games as I can because it fascinates me how they're making this work. I never would have predicted that through week 7 the Cardinals would be 3-1 on
It's the best division of football.
Yeah, on the back of some very good and compelling performances from Kyler Murray. Aside from the first half of week 1, I can't think of a game where I go, man, Murray's blowing it. There's a lot of stuff to be really excited about there in Arizona if you're a Cardinals fan. So that would be my biggest surprise player as far as a positive this year. Andy, who has been the most disappointing for you?
Jared Goff.
That's a good one. That's a good
Le'Veon
one.
Bell. And Joe Mixon.
That's fair. Yeah, those are all fair. If I had to pick just one, and I agree with everything Andy just said, and those are great selections that I didn't even think of. But the one that really sprung to mind for me was Juju Smith-Schuster.
I didn't feel like that was fair because
yeah,
it's not really his fault.
Yeah, that's a good point. Another guy that really sprung to mind for me was Mitchell Trubisky.
Yeah.
This was a year where I think if he was able to take another step, right, just get a little bit better than he was last year, the Bears could be
Or even
contenders.
play the same. He's got worse.
Yeah, he's really had a disappointing year. But those would be the two that really jump. And Jameis Winston, I know I'm a Bucs fan, so I have to mention this. I thought Bruce Arians and his staff coming in would really help Winston, with things like ball security, better decision making, etc. And I know that Bruce Arians is sticking up for his dude when he says, well, the pass protection hasn't been there, but Winston's year has been really rough. He's on track to have really his worst year ever as a starting quarterback. So those would be my picks. So this is where it gets a little bit fun because it's so hard to predict trades before the deadline because trades just aren't that frequent.
I don't think one happens.
Well, if there was one that would happen, what would you predict?
Robbie Anderson to the Packers.
That would work, wouldn't it? Like that could work. The one that I could see happening, even though they are 3-1, is I know a lot of people are calling the Cardinals about Patrick Peterson. And I know we talk about this almost every year because it seems like he's been on the block, in air quotes, for the last maybe 2 or 3 seasons. I could totally see him getting traded to...
They got offered a first and Nelson Aguilar from the Eagles, and they said no.
Hear me out on this, Andy. Would you take that? Because I probably would.
From the Cardinals?
Yeah, if you're the Cardinals, would you take that?
I mean, you're not competing, so yeah, I guess. I mean, Pat Pete's not going to be there forever.
Yeah, I mean, I'd probably take... I don't know. That's a pretty good offer. Well, I mean, there you go.
Nelson Aguilar's irrelevant in the trade.
Yeah,
really.
I don't really think he adds much to the Cardinals, and his time in Philly has been very up and down. Philly fans have turned on him pretty quickly. First off, they weren't really big fans of him to begin with. Then he had a really good year, and I think people started to kind of warm up to him, but now it seems like they've given him the cold shoulder again.
Another fun trade.
Yeah.
So, we'll talk about it later. Emmanuel Sanders got traded to the 49ers.
Okay.
Emmanuel Sanders wears 10. Jimmy Garoppolo wears 10. All right.
Okay.
Mohamed Sanu got traded to the Patriots.
Okay.
Mohamed Sanu wears 12.
Okay.
Tom Brady wears 12. So that means confirmed, set in stone, Julio Jones goes to the Philadelphia Eagles.
It's a fun trade, but I would imagine
definitely will not happen.
The cap penalty would be the worst.
But 11 to 11.
I will say this. If Julio Jones hadn't signed that massive extension, with the Falcons sitting the way they are right now, I could see them trading Julio Jones, or at least entertaining that idea after how they've imploded. But I don't think it'll happen. Also, we'll talk about this new trade later, but that was an interesting one. So yeah, and also I don't see, just to address Bobby's prediction here, I don't think Gronk's coming back. I just don't see it.
Why not? Why would he?
I don't think that there's really any upside. He doesn't need the money. He's been very clear about that.
He didn't spend a single penny of his NFL contract his entire time in the NFL.
So there you go. I mean, he doesn't need the money, and I mean, CTE's a thing, and anybody who has been watching the NFL knows that even as a very young man, Gronkowski struggled a lot with injuries, and who wants to put up with that? I mean, it's kind of like Andrew Luck. He was so young, but he struggled with so many injuries.
Even legacy-wise, Gronk's arguably it's him and Tony Gonzalez. That's about it.
I like Shannon Sharp a little bit better than Gronk just because of the longevity of the career. But
Gronk is like Barry Sanders, though.
In terms of raw talent,
he retired on top of his game.
Yeah, I mean, if we're talking about raw talent, we take injuries out of the picture, we take longevity of the career out of the picture. I think Tony G is the greatest tight end ever. Period. Right?
I mean.
And he's one of the best wide receivers ever, honestly. If we want to just talk about guys that catch balls, that sounded weird. Tony Gonzalez, to me, he's like Jerry Rice. He's number one and everybody else is a second. But Gronk's got to be 2 or 3. Probably 2. I can't stand the Patriots, but I just don't think he comes back. Anyway, thanks for the question, Bobby, and thanks for being a Patreon backer. We appreciate it, man. Sphinx, dumbest Sphinx asks, this must be an inside joke. Does Andy like women or men?
Yes. Moving on, next question. Now we have Francis Ford Coppola coming out this week in support of Scorcese's comments.
Hold on now.
Straight up.
Hold on. At one point, Andy was known to yell out in public very loudly at random people, and I've been a witness to this. I'll suck your
That's one of them. The original was boys. There's a video of me yelling that at a school bus.
Well, we're gonna have to bleep that, man. Let me put that in the notes. About 2030. I got one thing for me and one thing.
I mean,
for
all I
you,
can say
bleep.
about the question, it's up for interpretation. Whatever you think. I mean,
So funny.
personally, I like most people I meet. You know.
I love that. I love that you're giving non-answers and it's funny. It's great. I love it. Anyway, moving on. Andy, please continue with our last listener question
Now we
here.
have Francis Ford Coppola coming out this week in support of Scorcese and straight up calling Marvel movies despicable. Are these masters of film seeing something the general public isn't? Do their opinions carry more weight due to their library of work? Question from Daniel from the Reasons I'm Broke podcast.
Pretty professional reading of that question, Andy. I loved it. So yeah, I'm not surprised that either one of these guys would say this about MCU movies. I do think they are seeing something that the general public isn't. I mean, that's one of the questions here. I mean, I just don't think the general public really understands the difference between a good action movie and like great cinema that means something. You walk away, it evokes some type of emotion. I'm not talking about the emotion of Iron Man dying, okay? That it's
Oh man, when Captain America picked up Thor's hammer.
dude, I don't know, dude. I know that I've gone on rants on this podcast, on my channel, on streams, in videos, you name it. I think they're all right. The MCU movies, they're like disposable razors. You use them, you watch it once, and then you're done with it. Like, and that's really all I see in it. I don't
But if you want a
think there's
nice
much
quality
depth.
shave, you go for a better product.
Yeah, you do. I mean, and
Yeah.
like to me, you know, I hate being like this. You know, I feel like I'm being overly negative. The people that worked on those movies, I understand why they're passionate about it. I understand why they defend it. I understand why they champion them as something more than they are because they worked on it. They're proud of it. And they made a lot of money doing it. So hats off to them. I'm not saying that they're bad movies, right?
I mean, using the Bobby approach from last week, my opinion doesn't matter. They made money. My personal opinion
yeah,
doesn't matter.
I
The
mean,
movie made money.
okay, that's fair. I mean, if we're just talking about financial success alone, sure. But
Yeah.
I think
I don't know.
film can be art. I don't think MCU is something that I would ever consider to be art.
Funny enough, I watched this week It Comes at Night, which has like an infamous Rotten Tomatoes score,
Yeah.
which has an 87% critic score and a 44% audience score.
Yeah.
And I loved it. I thought it was a masterpiece. Or not really a masterpiece. I gave it a 9 out of 10. So not a masterpiece, I guess. But still really good. It's a high rating for me.
That's a pretty high rating.
And then there's also Venom. There's a 29% critic rating, but then 80% of the audience liked it. So it's rated 80% of the audience. So I don't know. It's just personal opinion. Whatever.
I think there's ability, like, I think the other thing too is, and I struggle with this when I talk to people about movies and film, because and not even as a content creator, but like even in general in life, you know, like you run into people, they want to talk about the newest movies or whatever. And I think there's an ability to like something, but also understand it's not great. It's not art, right? So like I love Freddy Got Fingered, but I realize it's kind of rubbish. I mean, it was kind of made to be rubbish. Like that was what Tom Green was going for. But I just think, unfortunately, I don't know what it is about comic book characters. And this is both sides of the big two companies, Marvel fans and DC fans. They tie their emotions to these characters, and I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense to me. But, you know, and I think with that, you get people who do consider Avengers Endgame something that's worthy of an Academy Award. I don't know. As far as whether these two directors,
they'll win one.
Does their, you know, library of work mean that their opinions carry more weight? Obviously, yeah, I would say so. I mean,
I'm going the opposite direction.
I think everybody should have a voice, but I mean, I'm just saying, like,
I don't think their opinion should be worth more because at the
mm,
end of the day, their ticket's gonna cost $15 and my ticket's gonna cost $15.
you're right. That's a fair point, and that's a good way of looking at it. And one of the things that actually really bothers me is every once in a while I'll run into somebody who, well, I know more about film, so your opinion doesn't matter as much as mine.
That's
And
me.
I hate that. Well, I hate that because it's like it's elitist, and
No, I'm kidding.
they're like I've learned a lot more about film. I would say in the last, I don't know, really since I've been a content creator and learned about video editing and how things work, and getting a really nice camera for vlogs and trying to get the settings on that just right. Like it makes you respect the process a lot more. You also kind of see things that you didn't see about video in general. And I mean, obviously that translates to film because video is half of what film is. There's the audio portion, there's the video portion. And like, I feel like I've learned a lot about it. So like people can always learn, people can kind of change their opinions. And I would also kind of throw out there that even the people now who think that they're like these experts on film, like go back. I wish you could go back and talk to the 14-year-old version of yourself because you'd probably have some stupid ideas about what made a good movie. Because I know I certainly did. I mean, there's stuff when I was 14, I probably would have been like Apocalypse Now. That's friggin' boring. But as an adult, it's a masterpiece. It's one of the greatest movies of all time, in my opinion. It means something. It says something. It was difficult for him to make. It's shot brilliantly. It adds a theme that touches so many human lives. It's cool. I don't know. But I agree with you, Andy. I think everybody's opinion should kind of matter to some extent.
But the main opinion is your own, I guess, to yourself.
Yeah, I mean that's the other thing, when you see people who really do believe that the MCU, as someone tweeted my wife last week, is the greatest cinematic achievement of all time, you're not going to be able to convince that guy to not believe that. So enjoy it.
I'm trying to think of the name of this movie that I watched when you're like, oh, when you're 14. There's a movie I've seen like several times when I would just like play COD and have it on. I've watched it like 6 or 7 times. Where it was, I don't remember the name of it, but it was Groundhog Day, but the day restart every time he orgasmed. I just thought it was hilarious.
I can't think of what that is. It sounds vaguely familiar, but I can't think of what it is. I don't know. Like like even like younger me.
I'm sure it's awful.
Fistful of Dollars. That's a good example, right? I watched that when I was a lot younger, and then I watched it now as an adult. When I was younger, I was like, this is cool. It was fun. Action movie. And then as an adult, like, I noticed all these things that I didn't notice before. Like, this was shot really well. The audio on this was really well done. This whole thing was dubbed.
Yeah.
You notice the details a little bit more as you get more mature. I know there's people that are kind of against that trend, who like yourself, who really young and know a lot, but most people your age don't.
Speaking of Despicable,
Yeah.
our DCD Film Club pick this week, Despicable Me 3. No, I'm kidding. The Exorcist.
Yeah.
Fan pick by Ruben Jim / Bob
Yep.
E.
I like how it's stylized in the show notes, almost as if he's Wally. Wall.
It's Bob
yeah.
E.
Wall E. Carrying around fat people.
So, Alex, The Exorcist from 1973.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
So I've seen this movie a billion times. The most recent remaster of it, I think, usually, I'm not really a big fan of them going back and remastering things. So, or like doing another director's cut, or all that kind of
Technically,
stuff.
the theatrical cut of this is the director's cut, but then the new director's cut. It's called something. It's like the ultimate direct. It's something stupid.
Okay, so whatever the newest one is the one that I watched this time around.
Yeah.
And
The extended director's cut.
yes, that's the one. And to me that's, I don't know, they're all good cuts, but I really like that one a lot. It's really good. I've always felt this movie was an absolute classic. I think it's one of the greatest horror movies of all time. I still feel that way. The fact that it's relevant 46 years after coming out is kind of mind-blowing to me. So, like, cinematography-wise, I think it was shot really well. There's a lot of... And the reason I say that is there's just so many memorable shots from this movie that have been spoofed and parodied and all that. But there's also iconic shots in this movie, that the minute you see it, like the shot that's on the cover of the... No, it's not on the cover. On the theatrical release poster, that shot is from the movie, and it's just like, as soon as you see it, you know what you're talking about. You know it's The Exorcist. You know it's the original one from '73, not any of the sequels. So I think, it's massively successful from a visual standpoint. Love the score on it. The score is another thing where as soon as you hear it and you know what you're watching, and it fits the mood really well.
Did you watch it in theaters? Obviously not in '70s when they re-released it in the '90s.
Unfortunately, I've never had a chance to do that. I'm sure there have been events, but I just missed them or whatever. I would love to see this in theaters. I would imagine it's amazing.
I know they re-released it in the '90s. I think it was the version you watched with the Pazuzu like flash cuts every once in a while.
Yeah, that's the one point that I know a lot of people were kind of lukewarm on. They didn't really like that aspect of it, that they were throwing in those little flash cuts. I kind of like it, but it's just like a personal preference thing. I honestly, I don't think it takes anything away from the movie or that it adds anything significant, but yeah, I really like it. It was, to me as a kid, it was very controversial.
That's the scariest movie of all time.
Well, you got to remember, I went to a Catholic grade, middle, and high school, and this movie was considered. You just didn't talk about it. I don't know how to say it other than that. Like, it was not something that you wanted to talk about at school. My parents heavily discouraged me from watching this movie, and that kind of added to the mystique of it when I finally watched it. So there may be a little bit of that bias in there for me, but the acting's amazing. The only thing that I think you could probably criticize this movie for, and I don't think it's even its own fault, is the some of the special effects look a little dated, but for 1973, I think they did, and with a budget of $12 million, by the way, I think they did about as good as you could expect. And I still think that the special effects aren't so bad that it takes you out of the movie at all. But that's just me. I've heard younger people say it's friggin' cheesy. But here's the thing. I think it's about perspective, because a lot of those younger people, I'll usually ask them, I'm like, have you seen some of the spoofs? Like, for example, Scary Movie. And they'll be like, yeah, I will too. Okay. And they'll be like, yeah, I saw that before I saw Exorcist. And I'm like, well, yeah, it kind of changes your perspective a little bit, because you saw it first as a comical thing. Now you're seeing it
I
as
thought
something
this movie was
that's supposed to be-
hilarious.
Really?
By the way. Yeah.
Did you?
Yeah, it was hilarious.
Okay, now I got to hear your thoughts on this.
All the spooky parts that are supposed to be spooky, like
Yeah.
she's in the bed, she's cooked with contraption, she's like flinging around, or the part where she goes down the stairs, like spider walk. Hilarious. Not scary at all.
Oh, well.
And also, it doesn't help the practical effects.
Yeah.
Like, they're objectively speaking, this movie is incredible. Subjectively speaking, the effects it doesn't age well. Like
No, you're right.
horror movies of this era, like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I still believe is incredible.
Yeah.
Sound design. I mean, there wasn't really that much of a score. There was a couple songs, but it was mostly quiet.
That opening though, it's like
I really enjoyed the sound design. I don't know. I know this is your main complaint, and I'm surprised you're not doing it. And I typically don't complain about this, but the pacing of this is awful. It was just slow and brutal at points.
That's a fair criticism. I think I'll be honest, like going back and rewatching this, I was surprised to learn that I think the cut I watched was about 2 hours and 15 minutes roughly. It was a little bit over 2 hours. And that kind of surprised me because I don't remember it being that long. But it didn't, as I got through it, I will say the pacing, you're right. That's a fair point. That's a fair criticism.
Yeah. And then, I don't know. It's written well. I mean,
yeah.
The person that made the book basically made the movie, kind of.
Yeah.
So.
I think it's a classic. You know, I don't use that term lightly.
I don't know.
But I feel like it really is.
Historically, it's obvious why it was considered the scariest movie of all time. Which, I mean, you tell that to someone, they get preconceived notions of what scary movies are, and this isn't what that is. Like I said, the scary moments where she's like flipping around and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I don't know. Maybe like the scariest part is I don't remember his name, but the priest dealing with his mom's death and how he thinks it's his fault the entire time.
Uh-huh. I thought that was really good writing to creatively put that in.
And then also how, it's super realistic in how it'd be portrayed in real life if this actually happened. The mom's not religious, and she just goes to doctors.
Yeah.
And it goes to doctor after doctor after doctor, and the doctor's like, we don't know what's going on. We can't tell you.
It is interesting from that standpoint. I also think part of it is when I talk to people about this movie, I usually get two different types of reactions. People like myself who are believers of any kind of Christian religion whatsoever. Part of the horror, I think, comes from the desecration of religious objects in this movie. And, you know, obviously it's a demon. It holds no regard whatsoever for people's religious beliefs, makes fun of them, mocks them, etc. And I think that is kind of what, unless you're desensitized, which a lot of people are nowadays, but like some of the stuff that happens in this as a kid who went to Catholic school, it's kind of jarring, you know? I mean, it really, like, it shakes you a little bit. To use a common term now, it like kind of triggers you. You know, and there were multiple reports. I mean, obviously the media was all over this, and, you know, the media loves a good story, but like there were people in movie theaters who were, you know, physically ill,
passing out
because of it. Yeah. And
there's
I
a whole
think,
documentary about it.
yeah, it's kind of interesting in a way because you go, well, at that point, it's maybe too successful at what it's trying to do, but you can't really hold it against it. And then I talk to a lot of people who, you know, are maybe atheists or agnostic or not really into religion at all. Maybe they just believe in spirituality or you name it. I don't know. Everybody's got their own thing. And like they kind of don't get it. But then there's people who I've talked, I know one person who's like hardcore atheist, like no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And they were like, you know what? It's good. It's one of the best horror movies ever. And I was like, wow, it's kind of cool.
I kind of got taken out of this movie because most of it, I was like, the main girl, I was like, the mom.
Yeah.
I was like, where do I know her from? And she has like she's basically plays a crackhead in Requiem from a Dream. Well, everyone in Requiem for a Dream is a crackhead, but I don't know. Even though the roles were like 40, 30 years apart, it just took me out of the movie just thinking her as a crackhead. And then originally it was supposed to be I'm pretty sure Audrey Hepburn was supposed to play her,
Yeah.
but she wanted to film it in Paris, so it didn't happen. So I thought that was cool, fun net fact. And also
Yeah.
Jane Foster was supposed to do it, but she didn't.
You know, the one performance that I think was pretty incredible was Linda Blair's, and I had to look it up because I was like, I seem to remember she was pretty young even in the sequel, Exorcist 2. She was 14 when they made this, so it is pretty impressive to see that kind of performance from a child actress. You know,
Yeah, and they did stuff that wouldn't fly today, like hooking her up to a machine and flinging, like putting her in a harness and flinging her around the bed.
no, I don't think that would fly today. The other thing is in the sequel, not to get off on the sequel, but in the sequel, there's a scene where she's walking on like the rooftop of a very tall building. And you know, like how they usually have that barrier wall on the rooftop. She's walking on that, and a lot of people thought she was hooked up to strings. No, she legit walked
She's
on
Tom
that.
Cruise.
Dude, it was mental. Like watching that. By the way, Exorcist 2, totally different type of movie. Wouldn't recommend it. But
Exorcist
that
3,
one
though.
scene. Oh, I don't know. It's been so long since I've seen Exorcist 3.
Don't watch the second one. Watch Legion or the third one.
Yeah. I don't know. And you know, the cool thing about this is I felt like it spurred so many knockoffs and like a whole genre of films. Like what we covered last week, The Last Exorcism. I don't think that
The
ever
Last
happens if it
Exorcism
isn't
got
for this.
worse after watching this.
You can't compare the two.
It's a complete, like, all the, like, you can see the inspiration, I guess, but all the, like, spooky movements are completely stolen.
No, you're right. I mean, here's the thing. Like,
and also the fact that the priest doesn't believe both of them.
Yeah, but I kind of...
It's just like a modern New Orleans telling of The Exorcist.
Okay, that's fair enough. But there are definitely some parallels there. I just think that to compare... And I like the Last Exorcism, and I think it is successful for what it tries to do. But to compare it to The Exorcist, it would, like, again, we go back to art versus just a good action movie or a good horror movie with there's depth to The Exorcist. Like, this is a classic. I put it right up there with things that I've mentioned earlier, like 2001: A Space Odyssey, Apocalypse Now, Citizen Kane. These are timeless films. You know, and you can't compare Last Exorcism to that. It's like comparing a baked potato to potato chips. Like they're both potato based, but that's about it. They're totally different
compare
things.
them if you use my ratings.
Wait, what?
Huh? What'd you rate out of 10?
So I love this movie. I am biased. I've seen it a billion times. Anytime it's on TV, I actually sit there and watch it. I just can't turn it off. I give it an 8.5 out of 10.
Yeah, I gave it a 6.
You're so hard to please.
I know it's a meme, but it is kind of pretentious.
Oh my goodness. It's pretentious.
Everyone's making it out to be like this great thing, and I just didn't. It just doesn't age well. Like, Daniel said it would blow Hereditary out of the water.
It does.
No.
Hereditary's good, but get out of here. Right. Well, 6. Yeah. And I know when you put something in a 6, it means you would barely recommend it, if at all.
I mean, that's not really. I mean, I also gave Halloween 3 Season of the Witch a 6.
Okay. I don't know what I'm
I don't know.
supposed to do with that, but okay.
It's just a comparison point. Um, to kind of explain my ratings in my own head, which I don't know. 5 is average, 6 is above average,
Fair
but
enough.
like slightly above average because some critics take 6 as average. Like most critics count 6 as average, but I'm kind of like I don't know. 6 and 5 are kind of both average. 6 being on the top end of average, and 5 being on the bottom end of average.
Okay.
But then also 6 can be above average at the same time. I don't know. It's weird. I
Yeah.
don't know how to explain it. My head. It's how it works.
Yeah, to me, if it's anything above a 5, I would consider it to be just above average.
If I give it a 6 or higher, that means I would tell some like if it's 5 or less, it's basically me saying don't waste your time on it.
Yeah.
But I also have the same belief you should check out everything and make up your own opinion.
That's a really good point, and I'm the same way. I think we're pretty well aligned on that. If I rate something a 5 or below, I consider it pretty much to be a fail. There are exceptions to that. Like, I mean, I mentioned like Freddy Got Fingered earlier, or like Road Trip, right? I love that movie. I love Road Trip. I think it's funny. So, I mean, I'd probably say it's like a 4 or a 5 Road Trip. Freddy Got Fingered's like a 2. But it's like you have to, or like even The Room. Like The Room, I have it rated on Letterboxd as 1.5 stars. But
Because you're a hater.
I think there's brilliance to it. Unintentional brilliance.
I have
but
The Final
brilliance
Sacrifice
nonetheless.
a 10 out of 10 because it's a classic. Final Sacrifice, great movie.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I mean,
And if you know what that movie is, you're like, Andy's talking out of his bleep. It's an MST3K movie, and that's my favorite MST3K. I just think it's hilarious. It gets funnier the more you watch it.
Well, what's your pick for next week?
So in the show notes, you thought I was kidding, but I'm not. No, I'm kidding. I have Are You Afraid of the Dark, the entire TV show, but in all actuality, so I said it's not going to be an Exorcist movie. Has nothing to do with exorcisms, and it's the most Halloween movie you could watch.
Okay.
That isn't Halloween,
Okay.
and that is 2007 Trick or Treat.
Trick or Treat?
Yeah, that's the name of the movie, Trick or Treat.
All right. Well, that's
It
what
is
we're watching.
on Google Play, YouTube, Amazon Prime, Vudu, iTunes, $2.99, and Philo. I don't even know what that is with subscription.
Well, I look forward to it. I've never even heard of it, so it's going to be another new one that I've never even seen before or was even made aware of. So, moving on. Sports. Andy has in the show notes here. If you had to stop being a fan of your current favorite team, which team would you pick as your new one?
Yeah, Matt Miller tweeted that.
It's a good
that's
question.
an interesting question.
Yeah, I'll lead off. So I'm a fan, and I'll just go with the big four sports: Tampa Bay Bucks, Florida Panthers, Miami Marlins, Orlando Magic. So, God, I guess I'd probably become a Jacksonville fan in the NFL. I'd probably become a Jaguars fan if I had to pick a new team. Boy, that's dark to think about, but I hope that never happens. In the NBA, I'm a Magic fan. I really don't know because I hate the Miami Heat, so I can't see myself becoming a Heat fan. I'd probably do something lame and like become a Pelicans fan. Like I'd probably just pick like a newer team or something like that. Or like I would hope that they would get an expansion team in the NBA and I'd just follow them, I guess. Baseball is easy. You know, I actually am one of the few people who I've been to Rays games and I don't think that the Trop is a bad building and I love the fan base. I love the fan base's passion. So if I stopped being a Marlins fan or if they relocated, I'd just be like, okay, I'm a Rays fan. That one's real easy. And then hockey, I'd probably just become a Tampa Bay Lightning fan because it's close in proximity. Yeah. And it actually makes zero sense that I'm a Florida Panthers fan, but because they're a little bit further away. But I don't know. When I was a kid, I picked the Panthers. I don't know. Andy?
Mine's gonna go a lot quicker than that because I joke around and say I'm closeted fans of these teams.
Okay.
So basketball, it's the Memphis Grizzlies, even though I hate Ja Morant is now on the team, and Ja Morant's stupid fans follow him. They're all idiots.
Strong opinions there.
I'm from the Murray area where he went to college, and these people literally like think he's God.
They do.
And then baseball, the Cincinnati Reds.
That one surprises me.
Basketball. I already did basketball. Why the Reds? I don't know. I just enjoyed watching them this year.
Oh, okay. That's cool.
I watched quite a bit of Reds games this year.
Yeah, that's a good reason.
Hockey, going from a good team to a bad team, the Blackhawks. Just because, it's my friend's favorite team.
And I also love that they're one of the original 6. That's kind of cool.
I mean, so are the Bruins, so.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm just talking about as a fan of the Florida Panthers, which is part of the original 30, probably, right? So,
I mean, technically not, probably, if you count teams that don't exist anymore.
No, you're right.
And then football, it would be I haven't really thought about this one. It would be the Rams when they were in St. Louis, so I guess LA Rams, but I guess the Rams.
That'd be so weird. You as a Rams fan?
Because I love the Sam Bradford, Steven Jackson Rams. Like when they had Tavon Austin and Kenny Britt.
Are you like me and you feel like Sam Bradford will always be
defending him?
Will always be a case of bad luck when it comes to injuries. Like,
yeah.
I feel like he had all the talent in the world, but he legitimately has a degenerative knee issue. And I think if it wasn't for that, he'd be one of the best QBs in the NFL right now. It's just kind of, it sucks to think about. Well, that was actually kind of interesting. And I got to tell you right now, Miami Marlins, you keep pissing me off. I might just switch anyway. Because Derek Jeter is running them into the ground. Moving on to our next topic here regarding sports. Mohamed Sanu traded to the New England Patriots for a second-round draft pick. How do you feel about that trade, Andy? I heard some very interesting thoughts on this trade yesterday.
Yeah, it was the biggest hole in the Patriots. It was wide receiver. They needed one.
Yeah.
And they went out and got one.
Do you think Mohamed Sanu, I mean, obviously he helps, but do you think he's a big help for them?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, currently it's just Julian Edelman. That's it. Julian Edelman, Philip Dorsett. He's instantly the number 2 guy, and then Josh Gordon comes back. He's number 3 guy.
Yeah, and Edelman's kind of sort of banged up right now. Like, I know he's playing hurt.
Yeah.
And it kind of shows. And as you
their
said, they're kind
Brandon Bolden, Philip Dorsett. Like, it's completely, like, that's the only hole in the team is wide receiver.
So one comment that I saw yesterday about both of these trades that we're going to talk about, but very specifically in regards to Sanu, was if you're undefeated, why would you give up a second-round pick for a wide receiver?
It's technically a third-round pick.
You're right on that. It might as well be. Like, here's the thing. Okay, first off, if you're Atlanta and you can get a second-round draft pick, or as you said, a third-round pick, basically, for Mohamed Sanu, I think you pull the trigger every single time. Like, the Falcons are not making the playoffs, and while Mohamed Sanu is a valuable contributor to that team, I don't think losing him makes them unbelievably worse, especially with Calvin Ridley being on that team. But I just didn't understand this rationale of if you're undefeated, you shouldn't trade for anyone. But I saw a lot of people on Twitter saying the same thing, and
it's just people mad the Patriots get better every year.
Well, I mean, I don't like the Patriots either, but here's the thing. In both of these teams' cases that we're going to talk about, the 49ers and the Patriots, if you have an opportunity to make your team better and add depth in a position of need, you do it, because right now, I think the Patriots, and they rightfully so, believe that they can win a Super Bowl this year. And if you think you can win a Super Bowl, if you think you can win a Super Bowl, you make the trade. Who cares about the pick?
Would they win it all without him? Probably. Would they win it? It'll be easier with him.
You know, you never know with these trades. Sometimes they pay dividends in ways that you would have never expected. So, best example I could think of is the Seattle Seahawks. They went to the Super Bowl. They famously traded for Percy Harvin earlier in the year. Everybody called them idiots. Percy Harvin was banged up. Didn't really contribute much of anything in the regular season, but in the Super Bowl, he returned a kick for a touchdown. It swung the game. It was one of the biggest moments in the game. The trade worked then. When you win a Super Bowl, who cares? Who cares about the picks? You won a Super Bowl. There's teams that, the Falcons specifically, there's teams that have never won a Super Bowl. So, I mean, if you think you're going to go all the way, man, make that trade. Moving on to the next trade here. This was an interesting one. This one kind of surprised me. Denver Broncos trading Emmanuel Sanders, which didn't surprise me. That he wanted out. They came out this week and said that. But they get him and a 5th round pick to the 49ers, and the 49ers are sending back a 3rd and a 4th round pick. Andy, how do you feel about this one, with the 49ers being your favorite team?
First up with the picks, it's a 3rd for Emmanuel Sanders. The 4th round pick's basically going, it's just moving back 10 spots. Technicalities. If 49ers continue to be beasts. 49ers don't need wide receiver depth, but they need George Kittle's obviously the number one option. But they don't have a number one wide receiver. Dante Pettis is supposed to be that guy. Hasn't really stepped up. So, it's a much needed number one guy. And also, there's no veterans in the receiving core. It's all a bunch of young dudes. Marquise Goodwin is 28 or 29. But he's not like... Emmanuel Sanders has been to a Super Bowl and he's played in 10 playoff games. He brings experience to the team, a super young wide receiver core, and he's all-around reliable guy. And it's a good trade. Kyle Shanahan said he's happy with the current wide receiver core. But
of course you say that. You don't want to down the guys that are in practice every day. I get that. But...
he openly hated on Dante Pettis. But he was like, he needs to step it up.
That's also fair criticism as well. But this was a really good opportunity to get a lot better for a 3rd round pick. I think it makes a lot of sense. And
this trade is supposed to... Apparently the 49ers were trying to get him back in the draft, so it's been a thing for a while.
Yeah, the other thing too is, one, for the Broncos, you have a player who wants out, understandably so. The Broncos...
Sutton's going off this year.
Yeah, and the Broncos are kind of spiraling to a point. And, I think Emmanuel Sanders is probably at a point in his career where he wants to play for a more competitive team. And I think he did the right thing by going to the organization and saying, I'd really like to get out. If you can move me, please move me. And honestly, I didn't think they'd get a 3rd round pick for Sanders. I thought they might get a 4th, but
it's the same trade as Golden Tate last year.
Yeah, it's a good move. I think the Broncos did well for themselves, especially considering Sanders didn't really want to be there anymore. Your 49ers, it's a great veteran presence, a guy who could probably come in and contribute right away. I would assume it won't take him very long being, as long as he's been in the NFL. I can't imagine it's going to take him a long time to learn that playbook and get the scheme down and all
Allegedly, according to the Broncos OC, which I don't know who that is, couldn't tell you. It's the same scheme, different concepts.
Well, there you go. It's a good one. So, moving on to NBA. When we're recording this, I think there have been a few games that got played.
Two.
And,
as we're recording this, the Raptors Pelicans played and the Clippers Lakers played.
So, NBA 2019-2020 season discussion.
Yeah.
So, are you excited about this year's NBA season? I am, for the first time in a while.
I mean, I like basketball, so yeah.
Yeah, I kind of fell out of it just because it got a little monotonous for me. So I would watch Magic games, I would watch some of the national games, I would watch the playoffs, but I certainly wasn't doing what I had done in previous seasons, which was watching every bit of basketball I could get my hands on. All the player movement is kind of intriguing to me. So, how'd you feel about the first two games of the season?
Pelicans, Raptors, I didn't pay attention to it much. It's two bad teams. Zion wasn't playing. I watched like the first quarter and then OT. And then LA Lakers versus the LA Clippers. Clippers look insane even without Paul George. They had the best depth last year. They still have the best depth. Without Paul George, they're so good. Kawhi's insane. I swear Kawhi didn't miss a single shot. I swear. I lie. I remember him missing one, but it felt like he was hitting everything.
Mm.
The Lakers, as expected, they're the favorite to win it all. But I haven't really said it because we don't talk about basketball. But I've said it to other people, they don't have depth. It's LeBron, AD. That's it. Like Jared Dudley was playing meaningful minutes. You can't win Nothing against Jared Dudley. You're not going to win basketball games with Jared Dudley playing meaningful minutes. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope played 27 minutes, recorded 0 points, 0 assists, 0 rebounds, and 5 fouls. They just don't have depth.
I think they tried to shore it up this offseason, but it was kind of difficult for them to do that.
They ran. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
They tried to make up for the depth problems by running AD and LeBron split. They had one on the court at all times.
Yeah.
But Anthony Davis on the court with a bunch of scrubs, he was awful. He looked absolutely terrible. But when LeBron was on the court, he looked good.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult from a depth perspective for them. So with the Lakers bringing in Anthony Davis from a salary cap perspective, pretty much, even though he waived some kind of clause in his contract, I think it was a trade kicker, where it made his cap number a little bit higher. He waived that, but even then, I think they really struggled to bring in significant depth outside of that trade.
Danny Green for the Lakers was lights out.
That was probably the best move they made other than the Anthony Davis trade. Yeah. I mean, I like Danny Green. He's a good 3-and-D player.
He scored 28 points.
Yeah, I think he's going to get a lot of open looks. I think that's really going to help. And I do think that the Lakers are certainly a playoff team. I am not going to doom and gloom this and say, hey, they're not going to make the playoffs. I think they're probably a top 4 team in the West. Barely.
I think they make 6.
I would put them, I have them pegged at number 4. But overall, I think the Lakers are going to need a couple things. One, LeBron's getting a little bit older. They're going to have to pace him. You don't want to wear the guy out. I think last season not going to the playoffs, I think that might have been a blessing in disguise because it means LeBron doesn't play really deep into the playoffs again for another year like he did
8 years in a row.
8 years in a row. Godlike run, by the way, in 8 years. But I think they're also going to have to ask LeBron to play a little bit better defense than he has played maybe the last 3 seasons. He's going to have to contribute a lot more on defense, and that it's going to be difficult to keep him fresh if you're asking him to play both ways at that sort of level. So, should be pretty interesting. But the Clippers, man.
Yeah.
The rich get richer, because I know we talked about the Clippers last year. I liked that team before Kawhi. I liked it before Paul George. I can't imagine how good they're going to be when they get Paul George back in a couple weeks.
I thought they were a favorite. We talked about it at the end of the season last year. Get Kawhi, and they have another max contract. I was expecting some guy like Vucevic, but they get arguably a top 5 guy in basketball, Paul George, to add
Yeah.
on to a top 3 guy, and they have the best depth in basketball.
So, real quick before we move on, give me your top 4 in the East, top 4 in the West, and who do you think goes to the finals, and who do you think ultimately wins the finals?
West, top 4 will be Jazz, Clippers, Rockets, Nuggets. Roughly in that order. I think the Jazz will have the most wins in the entire league. And then Clippers go to the finals and win it all. Gonna say it, unless they are. I don't see a team beating them if they're healthy. Eastern Conference, Bucks, Sixers, Celtics, and number 4 would be. This is a spicy hot take.
It gets
the
tough.
Orlando Magic.
I like the take. I don't know if I can believe in it.
And then the Sixers go to the finals and lose to the Clippers.
Yeah, so starting out East, in no particular order, I have Sixers, Celtics, Bucks. Fourth one is really tough. It gets really difficult. I have the Nets. I know they don't have Durant, but I do think if they get a full effort from Kyrie Irving, the Nets supporting cast is really good and lots of depth. So I got those 4. I think the Bucks go to the finals in the East. Western Conference, I have Clippers by and far the best team. Then I got the Rockets, Jazz, Lakers. Again, the fourth one's kind of tough because I think there's going to be a lot of teams really battling
You
it
just
out.
named 4.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, it's just like I could have easily put the Nuggets in at 4 instead of the Lakers, is what I meant to say. I have the Clippers going to the finals, barring some kind of an injury, and I have them winning it. So,
Yeah.
MVP, Andy, who do you think wins MVP?
Steph Curry.
That's a good pick. Personally, I think this could be a cool story, and I hope it happens. The one that I could see is Kemba Walker, because he goes into a Celtic situation. They need a number 1 guy. I think he can be that number 1 guy. I think he could also put up some crazy good stats playing with probably the best surrounding roster he's ever had. And he had a couple good
definitely.
rosters in Charlotte, but I think that who he's surrounded by, Kemba Walker goes in there. He could be the man. He'll be in the Eastern Conference. You know, it could be pretty good for him. So that's my pick there. Rookie of the Year. This is a pretty easy one.
Zion, even though he's not the favorite anymore in Vegas.
Yeah, I'm gonna say Zion ends up taking it, but you know maybe Morant takes it and Andy just
definitely not.
flips out. Defensive Player of the Year. Who do you got?
So I didn't really, I'm doing this. I'm not picking the same person 2 years in a row because that's just not fun. Realistically, Rudy Gobert went to the 3rd year in a row, but I have Paul George.
Yeah, that's a good pick. I ended up going with Gobert here. I know that's boring, but I don't see anyone else who makes that much of a difference every night like he does.
No, he's the Venus flytrap of the NBA.
He's reminiscent of Dwight Howard in his absolute prime. Like where defensively he's so disruptive, teams have to change their game plan, and I love it.
Never made an All-Star game. Rudy Gobert.
That's garbage.
Fan voting.
I hate fan voting. Because I bet you DeAndre Jordan somehow made an All-Star game, and
Yeah.
he's not a great center by any stretch of the imagination. He had a couple good years, but the good, not great years. trying to remember what the other awards are.
Sixth man of the year.
Sixth man of the year. I mean, it sounds kind of obvious, but wouldn't it almost certainly be Lou Williams? I mean, he's going to be playing on a big-time team. Yeah. He's coming off the bench, I mean, I think most of the time, if not all the time.
He's the closer. He doesn't start ever.
So, like, I can't really think of a better guy.
I went with the guy who finished third in six-man voting
on
the same exact team, the fellow closer on the Clippers, Montrezl Harrell.
If the Magic, that's a good one. If the Magic have a good year and they do what they've done in the previous season and a half, Terrence Ross could make some noise for sixth man of the year.
Spencer Dinwiddie is another guy.
That's another good one.
And then most improved player.
Oh, that's always a tough one.
I have Bam Adebayo for the Miami Heat. And then honorable mention, because he was my most improved player like this entire offseason before this week, was Jonathan Isaac.
That's a good pick. I'm only saying this because I saw a lot of them in the preseason, and I realized somebody's going to immediately call me out for bias on this one. But after a catastrophic rookie year, Mo Bamba looked really good in the preseason. He looked like he was in a better flow with the game, and yeah. So I mean that would be my best pick because I'm always terrible with most improved player anyway, because like it's such a crapshoot, and oftentimes it's just based on usage, if that makes sense.
I mean, yeah. Bam was a starter now, so long as affect him.
Yeah. Coach of the year.
Gwen Snyder.
Oh yeah, Quinn Snyder. God, it's so tough. Part of me thinks like, I'm thinking it'll be like one of those years where Doc Rivers wins it because the Clippers have like an amazing, and like he's playing in LA.
Coach of the year, who I think is going to win the most games.
Yeah, because I don't know. Coach of the year voting is kind of weird sometimes because sometimes you have like a tremendous record and you don't get any consideration at all because there's, somebody who has, just a really good year with a team that wasn't supposed to be very good.
I don't remember who won last year, but Doc should have won last year because they won way more. They won 48 games with their roster.
I mean, to me, that's who should be coach of the year. Like,
Oh, it was Coach Bud, obviously. Yeah, he deserved it too with the Bucks.
He did. A couple years back, I forget the year. I want to say it might have been 2012, 2013. It was the first year the Charlotte Hornets had Big Al Jefferson. And they managed...
Definitely wasn't 2013.
Okay, it was 2012 then.
2013 is the year they broke the record for the worst team ever.
Okay, it was probably 2012. But there was a year where they made the playoffs, and I was like, Steve Clifford, absolutely 100% should have been coach of the year, and he didn't get it. Anyway, like that's who should get. The guy who wills a bad team to an 8 seed. Anything else you want to talk about with the NBA, Andy? I'm just looking forward to the season. So,
all
right. How do you think Celtics are going to do?
Celtics winning it all. So I was just joking. I was crossing my fingers the whole time. Carson Edwards wins Rookie of the Year.
All right. So NFL Week 8 picks. Let's get through those.
Thursday night we have the Washington Redskins at the Minnesota Vikings. Going with the Vikings.
Yeah, I like the Vikings here.
Next up, we have the Seattle Seahawks at the Atlanta Falcons. Both these first two games are kind of obvious. Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah, I'm going Seahawks.
Then we have the Philadelphia Eagles at the Buffalo Bills. Going with the Philadelphia Eagles.
Going with the Bills.
Los Angeles Chargers at Chicago Bears. Bear down.
Even though before we started recording, you were like, the Bears will screw this up. This is a tough one.
I mean, they will. Both teams are teams that screw it up.
It's a tale of... And it's not the Bears' defense either. It's their Trubisky quarterback play. And then I just have to say, David Montgomery looks awful. Like, he has looked terrible all year. But yeah, I'm going Bears here.
You know, Jordan Howard has more rushing yards and touchdowns than David Montgomery and Tyreek Cohen combined.
Yeah.
Cincinnati Bengals at the Rams. Going with the Rams.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for the Bengals going all the way out west for a 1 o'clock game, so I'm going Rams.
Denver Broncos at Indianapolis Colts. Going with the Colts.
And I just realized that the Rams and Cincinnati are playing in London, so my bad there. I made a correction immediately. I'm going with the Colts as well.
The New York Giants at Detroit Lions. Going with the New York Giants.
I'm going with the Lions, man. I can't believe you're picking against the Lions at home.
Nah, man.
Lions are okay.
Nah.
They're okay this year.
Daniel Jones is a GOAT.
He's good. I actually like Daniel Jones so far, but I know
Tampa Bay
a lot of people don't.
Buccaneers at Tennessee Titans. Going with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
There's no bias in this pick whatsoever. I just don't like the Titans at all. Like, I don't see anything from them, so I'm going Bucks, but I know I'll live to regret it.
Arizona Cardinals at New Orleans. New Orleans.
Yeah, it's a tough one. It's a tough one for Arizona playing on the road, so I'm going New Orleans.
New York Jets going to Jacksonville. Going with the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Depending on which Jets team shows up, I don't know. I almost want to pick the Jets here, but I'm going Jaguars.
Carolina Panthers at the San Francisco 49ers. 49ers undefeated. 49ers stay undefeated. 7-0 at home.
Yeah, sorry, Kyle Allen. The joyride's over. 49ers.
Yeah. Have fun against that defense.
That pass rush, dude.
Yeah.
It's going to make his life.
All 4 starters on the 49ers D-line are ranked 90 or better on PFF.
I mean, I like Kyle Allen, and I think he has a great future in the NFL, but this is not a good quarterback situation for anybody.
Cleveland Browns going to Foxborough. Take on the Patriots. Patriots.
Looking forward to the Browns fans crying on Twitter like they have been all year. Patriots.
Oakland Raiders go to Houston. I'm going with the Oakland Raiders.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Texans haven't looked so hot lately, so I'm going Raiders here too.
Green Bay Packers at the Kansas City Chiefs. Matt Moore versus Aaron Rodgers. Obviously, the GOAT, Aaron Rodgers.
I'm going Matt Moore and the Chiefs.
And then the Miami Dolphins upset the Pittsburgh Steelers. Just kidding.
It's funny you say that because these last 2 picks, I'm going in the opposite direction. I actually like Miami in this game.
After I've made that joke, they're going to win. So you're a safe bet. Last week, we both went 10-6, by the way.
Ooh.
And if you want to spend some money in Vegas, our consensus pick, a.k.a. when we pick the same team, wins 70% of the time.
Well, there you go.
So
make a little money.
Try it out.
Buy a t-shirt. You know?
Use your winnings and buy a t-shirt.
Yeah, exactly.
Free t-shirt.
It's a good segue into our wrap-up. So, deadchannelduo.com. You go there and you can find every platform that we're on. So if you're maybe watching us on YouTube or listening to the audio-only version, you want to check out the other one, just go to deadchannelduo.com. You can find everywhere we're available. We're on pretty much everything now. T-shirt link, always in the description. If you buy a t-shirt, give us $6. We appreciate it. And if you buy one, please let us know so we can thank you, because we'll definitely thank you here on the show. It just doesn't tell us who buys them. In addition, Patreon. Want to thank Daniel, Jared, and Bobby. I got it right this week for being backers on Patreon. We have, I think, 3 different tiers. You can support the podcast for as little as $1 a month. What?
You set it up. You don't even know the tiers.
I think it's 3.
Oh.
Yeah, because there's egg tier, Andy tier, gold tier. Yeah. So,
Daniel and Bobby are at the Andy tier, and Jared's at the gold tier.
Yeah, and we owe Jared at this point, I think 2 streams.
At this point, he can just,
He can do whatever he wants. He can get
whatever you want, dude.
Yeah, you get 3 out of us if you really want to. Because that
24/7 stream.
That World of Warcraft stream was amazing. Just because Andy broke the game in 2 minutes. But anyway, yeah. So thanks for being Patreon backers. Go to patreon.com/DCD podcast. You can check out all the tiers there. You can get early access and ability to submit suggestions for DCD Film Club for just $1 a month. So check that out. And if you can't do any of that, you want to help us out, but not monetarily, leave us a review on iTunes. We'll give you a shout out here on the show. Andy, anything else you want to talk about, man?
No. I'm tired. I want to go to bed.
All right. So Andy's
Bruins have to score twice to score once because everyone hates them. So,
well,
F the refs. They've gotten like 6 called back goals.
I don't know, man. Sometimes refs just take over a game, and I can't stand it either. So
yeah, but they're 6-1-2. Celtics are undefeated as of this moment. Red Sox haven't lost a postseason game. 49ers undefeated. Nothing to complain about.
Cool. Well, it's gonna do it for DCD 52. We'll see you next week. Thanks for listening.
Egg.